inshallah, sanctify His name and bring peace to the world. It is a great honor and privilege for me to be able to come to this beautiful country of Malaysia and to be invited. I'm humbled that I'm invited to speak here in this distinguished gathering, and I'm thankful to the Honorable Rector of IUM, the Dean of ISTAC, IUM, Mr. Ramel from Centra, and all the distinguished guests, the distinguished audience here, everyone who is so distinguished and special, and truly every human being is distinguished and special. That is the fact, because we all actually are created in the image of the Almighty. In fact, that is what I've been asked to speak about at this conference, which is the sanctity and value of human life. In my speech was asked that it should be about the value of human life in Judaism. Really, it brings us as Jews to tears, and it hurts that this conference has to take place, because the reason I believe that it was called is because of the terrible, terrible Nakba, the genocide, the murder, the horrific satanic murder and oppression of the people in Gaza. And in order to sort of attempt to influence the leaders of the world, a conference has been convened to speak about the value of human life, in order to somehow to try to convince world leaders that there's a value in human life. That should be comical. I mean, that should be, this is such a basic issue. This is, the Almighty created us. In fact, in the Torah, it warns us right in the beginning of the 5 books of Moses in Genesis. It says that if a person, it's called the chapter of Noah, it says over there, a person who spills the blood of a person, his blood should be spilled because B'Tselem, in the image of God, God created man. In other words, the Almighty is, of course, awesome, is the Almighty. It is His world. And the people were created by the Almighty in His image. And therefore, there is sanctity. We have etched in godliness of the Almighty. And the Torah is replete with commandments of how one has to deal with other human beings, creations of the Almighty. It says, if a person is sitting and an old man passes, you are required to give him a little respect, like partly like lean forward, stand up a little, to show respect. It says that a human being is required to give charity to other people, to do mahu rachum afata teirachum. Just as God is compassionate, you must be compassionate. We have to emulate the Almighty. One of our great sages, his name was Hillel, he went to wash himself, to bathe, wash himself, and he said, I'm doing this because we are created in the image of the Almighty. And just as when a king puts images, statues in gatherings, in halls, they're careful to wash and to take care of it, that it should be clean. We certainly are required to give respect to the body that was created by God. But there's so many verses, so many laws that are pertaining to this, that if a person goes past a funeral procession, he has to stand up and to give respect. And he has to escort like 8 feet to show respect. It says that the Almighty is constantly worrying about the respect of a human being. Laws that pertain in the Torah, it says that if it will, and somehow it will embarrass a person, a lot of the laws are told that a person passes over that law and he doesn't do it because he should, because if it will embarrass the person. We have many such laws. The Torah is constantly worrying about the respect of a human being. Now, like I say, it's painful for me to keep on delving into the concept of how we have to show respect and worry about a fellow human being, because it is such a basic of my Judaism. My Judaism is a covenant that we made 3,000 years ago. The Jewish people stood on Mount Sinai, and Moses went up, Moshe Rabbeinu, and he took the Torah from God. And we made this covenant that we should be subservient to God. And all these laws of not stealing, not killing, of doing kindness, this is all etched in and is rooted and is the grained and the part of the Torah that we teach our children. In fact, we teach our children that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, when he was told by God that he has to deliver a plague to the king of Egypt after he had enslaved the Jews for 210 years. First of all, he spoke to him, even though he had enslaved the Jews for such a long time and he slaughtered the Jewish children to bathe in their blood. Yet it says that he spoke to him and referred to him as king and spoke with respect. The Torah tells us that no matter what the situation, the Torah constantly thinks about every individual, that he shouldn't be slighted and that we have to show respect. Moses was saved by his sister, as people know the story, because his sister put him in a wicker basket because the king wanted to kill all the Jewish children, the Jewish male children. And Moses was put in the wicker basket in the Nile. So afterwards, when God said to Moses that he should smite the water, it should turn into blood, Moses said Aaron, his brother, should do that. Because how could he smite the water that hid him and protected him and he was saved? We teach this to our children, that even an object we have to respect. And certainly a human being, as I say, is replete with so many laws. We wrote down one after the other, law after law, and time doesn't permit all the different things how the Torah warns us that we have to show respect. Bilam, if you know in the Torah, who was the one who wanted to curse the Jewish people after they left Egypt, his donkey went and he rebuked him. And the Almighty smite and killed the donkey, because even though Bilam was such an evil person who was just looking to do evil, but still in all, because God looks at the respect of a person, and he was embarrassed by this donkey. It's beyond our comprehension, of course, how the Almighty worries and thinks about every human being, every individual. There is no such thing that a person suffers, even the slightest. The Torah tells us that if somebody puts his hand into his pocket and he searches for a coin and he doesn't find it, that is also written in the Torah. It's written in God's books that it will alleviate punishment for a certain, whatever he did something wrong. Everything is exacting by the Almighty. So the concept of reward and punishment and how God worries and thinks about every individual, that is the essence of our Torah, of our belief in the Almighty, that the Almighty rules the world. And part of the fact that the Almighty rules the world is that He told the Jews when they left Egypt that they must go into the Holy Land because it is a holy land and He wanted us to serve Him. But He stipulated very clearly that we are under oath, that we have to be on a high level of spirituality. If not, we will be rejected from the land. And that happened with the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago. And since then, we are under oath by the Almighty that we are forbidden to return en masse in large numbers, because we were sent into exile because of our sins by the Almighty. Our reason for going into the Holy Land was because it was the will of God and that we should build a temple and so on. But we were warned that if we're not on that high level that's required, we will be sent out as a nation. And that happened. King Solomon built the temple and he wrote these 3 oaths of God, that if we're not on that high level, we will be sent into exile, and that we should not, once we're in exile, we're under 3 oaths, not to attempt to return en masse, not to rebel against any nation, we have to be loyal citizens in every country we reside, and not to make any attempt to end exile. And this is for 2,000 years, Jews accepted this upon themselves. It's the requirement of God, it's the basics of Judaism. And on top of that, we are required as Jewish people always to show gratitude for nations that took us in, because in this 2,000 years we went through many trials and tribulations. In certain Christianity, they tried to forcibly convert Jews to Christianity, and they killed the Jews, and by the Inquisition they burnt them, and many other different decrees where Jews were tortured. And what happened was the Jews were banished from many lands, and we were taken in a Muslim society, in Muslim lands, in Arab lands. And a Jew is required always to remember and show gratitude. That is part of God's creation of human beings, that we are required to show for every human being gratitude for good that has been done to them. This is a fact of our Torah. It says when the Jews left Egypt, we are not allowed to, we have to give them respect because they held us. Even though we were in captivity, because they held us, we were in their country, we have to show them respect. The Torah is replete with these laws of Judaism. Jews, in the 2,000 years of exile, we were taken in the last hundreds of years in the Islamic countries, we were embraced and given a home, including in Palestine. And therefore, beside the fact that we are expressly forbidden to create even 1 centimeter of a Jewish sovereignty in any part of the world, and also we are under oath not to return en masse, and certainly not to create this Jewish sovereignty in Palestine, because we were sent into exile by God. We were also commanded that we should not rebel against the nations. We should be loyal citizens. And we are not to make any attempt to end exile. On top of that, we have to show gratitude for good done to us. All of these issues is totally contradictory to this movement, this political movement, this nationalist movement of Zionism that started a little over 100 years ago. They were born from Jewish parents, maybe, a lot of them, the majority of the Zionists. There's a lot of Christian Zionists who support them. And they claim, though, they have the right to take that land and create a Jewish sovereignty over there in Palestine in the name of the Jewish religion. They use the Star of David. And they tell the people, this is the children of Israel who left Egypt, and this is our right to return. And the people who are living there, you disregard their rights to the land, their rights of existence. And therefore I'm here, and I have to, unfortunately, stand up and start from the ABC, the beginning of Judaism, and say, wait, this is not Judaism. We're not allowed to kill, we're not allowed to steal. We have to show gratitude to people who did us kindness. Besides, to every individual, we have to be kind and constantly worry about their needs and not to slight them or hurt them. But on top of that, we have to show appreciation, thankfulness for the nations that embraced Jews when we were being murdered. During our suffering in 2,000 years in Europe and in many lands, and we were embraced and taken in the Muslim lands, in the Ottoman Empire, in Palestine, in Al-Quds, in Jerusalem. This is the basics of Judaism. And truly, if you will go to invariably to any very religious community, whether it is in Al-Quds, in Jerusalem, whether it is in New York, where I'm coming from, where there is the second largest concentration of religious Jews, invariably, the more the religious the community, the more steadfast and vocal they are standing in opposition to the existence of this ersatz Judaism, this movement of Zionism, this nationalist movement that is masquerading in our name and disregarding the humanity, the people who are in God's image created, the people of Palestine, and they are vilifying them and saying, oh, these people hate Jews, and therefore we have a right to take the land. And we have a right to take the land because God gave us the land. And on top of that, I keep on saying, with God's help, they have two weapons, two nuclear weapons. One is they use the Bible to condone, to legitimize their taking of the land and accusing the people living there, these last hundreds of years, the Palestinian people, of being thieves and evil. And on top of that, when people have a little bit queries and asking, and how could you do this to people? So they say, oh, they're anti-Semites. They add on to the fact that they don't have a right to be there, but also they're anti-Semites, they're evil. They dehumanize the people of Palestine. And on both issues, they are dead wrong, and it's false. They are falsifying both Judaism and the truth, the facts on the ground. Judaism does not permit us to have a Jewish sovereignty since 2,000 years ago, and Jews true to the Torah are standing fast against this. We put out books, The Rabbis Speak Out, which is a compilation of all the rabbinical authorities, the leading rabbinical authorities from every country, who wrote about this and spoke about this since Zionism was created around 140 years ago. And I just quote one little quote from Rabbi Yisroel Meir Cohen, the author of Chofetz Chaim, the one who was a codifier of Jewish law accepted by everybody who was living in Poland, the Rad in Poland. He passed away in 1933, 15 years before the state was ratified by the UN. And he said, the Zionists are dead limbs of our people, which causes the entire body to rot. It's something which causes it because it's insidious. It eats into Judaism. It falsifies. It confuses the Jewish youth and the Jews around the world who are ignorant of their religion. And they make an ersatz Judaism and take people's minds. They brainwash. They use panic, fear-mongering, vilifying, dehumanizing the people of Palestine in order to take Jews who don't know the Torah well, and that they should feel that they have a right, and they're simply protecting themselves by bombing, killing in Gaza and so forth. And I'm not, God forbid, I'm not condoning this in one drop, but I'm just saying where it's coming from. It's the works of Satan. They propagandize and they brainwash the people. The word brainwash is meaning it washes out the brain that it can't think as a human being, as somebody godly has to think. And that is what they're doing. And they're gaining the support of the world because they were able to, 76 years now, they were able to tell the world that there's people, because it was prior to all the media that we have today, they were able to tell the world, this is the situation, this is the narrative. There's a few wild people living in Palestine who hate Jews, and they hate other people that are not Muslim, and they hate them, and they dehumanize them. And therefore, it's like you're shooting bugs, you're spraying bugs in a field. That is what it culminated to the death in Gaza. That people are silent for over now it's around 10 months, besides the 76 years that we've been living. So as a Jew, we cry and we hurt and we feel and we suffer with the people of Palestine because we are Jews, because our whole lives we made a covenant with God to be subservient, to emulate God, to appreciate that everybody has been created in the image of God. And it's forbidden, it's a law. It's forbidden to kill, to steal. It's forbidden to do exactly what Zionism is doing. So Zionism and Judaism is diametric opposites. The state of Israel is entirely forbidden. It's not Judaism. And we have the Jewish people have been standing from day one demonstrating. The Jewish rabbis, the head of the Jewish community, pleaded with the United Nations in 1947, a year before they made the state, where Rabbi Dushinsky, and it's in the records of the United Nations, said, "We furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine." This is the facts. And the rabbis since then, till today, as I say, around the world, the very religious communities will never accept this occupation, and they're being brutally beaten and killed in the streets of Jerusalem and Palestine, that the world doesn't see and doesn't hear, because the media is intimidated. They're afraid to speak up against Israel because they shouldn't be referred to as anti-Semitic, and they're confused between what is Judaism and what is Zionism. They think it's one and the same. And the concept of godliness, the concept that we are created in the image of God, and every single life we speak about the children that are being murdered, that are suffering, and they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have medical aid, in the sweltering heat, in the bitter cold, and so every drop of suffering. If when you put your hand in your pocket and you can't find a coin God reckons with, how God is reckoning with the suffering of the people of Gaza, and we as Jews are attentive to this, we feel this, and we stand together with this. Tomorrow, or today actually, on Wednesday in New York, it's sort of tomorrow, Netanyahu is going to be by Congress, and he's going to roll his eyes and speak about the Torah that he has a right to do, and he's a hero what he's doing. And what we say is he's Satan. He and his state, the entire state, is satanic, and it's a rebellion against God. And my rabbis, my constituents are there, and they're going to be standing out there and demonstrating in front of the White House and pleading with our leaders, do not be intimidated. It's not Judaism. It will never be Judaism. And with the Almighty's help, because ultimately we turn to everybody to pray to the Almighty, because everything is in His hands. So we have to do. But God will bring the results, that we all should pray to Him to bring a speedy and peaceful and total dismantlement of this occupation, of this Zionist state of Israel. It has no right at all to exist. At the same time, we dare not be intimidated. It is not anti-Semitic. It is proper to stand up and do what we can to help the people of Gaza, and mind you, to help the Jews. The worst personification of anti-Semitism is the Zionist state of Israel. They are the ones that cause hate of Jews. They cause a rift between Jews and Muslims. And they also make cheap the word anti-Semitism. My grandparents died in Auschwitz. We suffered because we were Jews for hundreds of years. And now they're coming, the Zionists, and they're committing crimes. And if you speak up against them, they call you anti-Semitic. So all that we died, and people knew it's criminal because of anti-Semitism, they're making cheap. So in every facet, Zionism is satanic, is evil. The state of Israel has no right to exist, and as Jews, representing the words of Jews and my brothers and sisters who are Jewish in the Holy Land, again, we suffer, we are in sympathy, we are in solidarity with the people of Palestine. We pray and look and yearn for a free Palestine soon in our days. Amen. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.